then Ollie Gildart got to it. But then Wigan did score from a set move from a scrum. George Williams came over to be second receiver from the scrum for a big loopy pass. Bevan French had a yard of space, and a yard of space is half a yard too much space for a man with that sort of speed. And when he went in to score the try, Mikel Simon slid in with the knees. He was cautioned for that and given the 8-point try that Zach Hardacre obliged on. And kind of from there, it was only ever going to go one way. A couple of ex-Wigan players slid over in the second half for Catalans, but nothing for Wigan to worry about there. And Bevan French scored a hat-trick, a very exciting hat-trick. Young Harry Smith came off the bench and finished off what was the highlight moment of the match for me. I mean, Harry Smith's debut try, it was the pick of the bunch. It was scored on a golden edge play that actually started with the right centre getting their hands on the ball in the middle of the field and then getting it out to the left. Sargentson, who played fantastically, threw a great pass out. Greenwood, who we're going to need to lean on next week, got a nice offload through to Oliver Gildart, who got it through to Joe Burgess, who had his best involvement of the game on this play. He kicked it back inside. Harry Smith was there to dot it down. Wigan were resting players as well by this stage. George Williams and Liam Farrell getting a bit of a spell towards the end of the game to make sure that, well, Liam Farrell, it doesn't matter now, does it? He's not playing next week, but there you go. Fantastic performance, although the few other tries were highlight reel worthy too as well. Dan Sargentson's came from a really good double kick on, which if you watch that try you just see an example of Bevan French's pace and how he must be the quickest player in Super League. He really must be. I mean, he was the star player, I suppose. Bevan French, he made an absolute mockery of Catalan's right edge defence. They did not know how to get close to tackling. He has a lot more.
I'm going to flip the question for a second. I'm going to flip that question. If he's the quickest, who's the slowest?
If he's the quickest, who's the slowest? Jamie Ellis, maybe? I don't know if he has like Google alerts for when his name's mentioned verbally as well as in text form. But yeah, honestly, he's so fast, and he's the young winger for the Catalan side really was left in some bad positions against Bevan French, because Braden Williamy tried to get involved and just fell off everything that came that way. If you see French's second try, which to be fair shouldn't have stood, Dan Sargentson was half a metre offside from the kick that went up. So to be fair, it was a miss there from the officials, but it was still massively stoppable. There was 3 defenders around him, and he just turned them inside out 3 times before he then actually found the hole, and all he needs is, like I say, half a yard and he's shot through and he's scoring a try. And if anything, his best involvement might have been the assist he put on for Hardacre's try, because it looked for all money that he was going to get tackled into touch, and he found the sort of strength and awareness and skill to get the ball back inside for Hardacre. And that's what I'm saying. This guy isn't just speed; he's got a bit of strength about him too. Wing is definitely his position. We learnt last week that halfback is not the place we should be playing Bevan French, but wing, maybe the centres in time, and potentially fullback if needed. But fantastic talent, and another one off the conveyor line as well for Wigan, as Harry Smith looked promising at Super League level.
I've got 2 nominations. Jamie Jones Buchanan now. He's got to be pushing.
We should have mentioned
Jamie
Jones Buchanan. I think Leeds should not play him next week, because he scored a try on his farewell appearance at Headingley if they don't play him next week. So I think they should not play him next week for that.
I'd also like to nominate Lee Gaskell. He's got to be pushing it.
I'm not sure that's fair. I think if you looked at like speed as a ratio of the stride length, he'd be at the lower end. But given the length of his stride, he can still get away from the odd people just because his ridiculous stride, go-go gadget sort of stride. So yeah, that's anyway. That's what I made of the Wigan Catalans game. It was easy in the end for Wigan after they kind of gave themselves some defensive work to test themselves out in the early goings.
There we go.
Shall we do the stand-ins?
Yes, St Helens have hit 50 points at the top of the table, so get out the Hawaiian shirts for next week, Saints fans. Wigan stay second on 34 points, with Warrington and Salford both able to catch them from 32 points if the Warriors slip up in round 29. Castleford were the big winners in the playoff race and jump up to 5th on 30 points, and with a very healthy points difference over Hull FC, who fall into 6th. Catalan on the beach and in 7th, and Leeds in 8th can relax. Then comes the four-way tie on 20 points at the bottom of the table. So, Wakefield have the best points difference on minus 124. Huddersfield have minus 207. Hull KR very close to them on minus 219. And London minus 273. So, it is all to play for in that final game.
Yeah, I mean, we know Wakefield will be playing London. Huddersfield have got Catalans, and Hull KR are visiting Salford. So we'll talk about those games a little bit later on. Stat line of the week, I've pulled out Bevan French. 3 tries,
You
2
pulled
tries.
out Bevan French?
Bevan French.
You pulled out him.
Yeah.
Right.
What a nice guy as well. Had a lot of time for sort of just sitting around with the kids and that sort of stuff at the fan day. Getting involved and that. I mean, most rugby players are nice guys, aren't they? Rugby league players are nice guys. Let's face it. We're used to them being really good around the kids and that sort of stuff in these kind of environments. But he was fantastic. Smiled at all the nonsensical childish behaviour going on around him. So well done to him. His first real exposure, I think, really of the younger Wigan fans. He's been at a Wigan Riverside supporters evening, but that's mostly the older fans. So yeah, but Bevan French, 3 tries, 2 try assists, 12 tackles, 110 metres, 4 clean breaks. I've pulled that one out there. Player of the week, who've you got?
Young Jacob Truman.
Yeah, me too. Go on. What's your reasoning?
Just the injection he put into the game, and that second try as much as anything. But his whole performance throughout the game was consistent. I think that's something he's growing into, is being a more consistent throughout the game performer rather than a highlight play performer, and that's something we've seen from him this year.
Definitely, I've seen him have some poor performances of late that Rob alluded to. I've seen him play a game where his kicking was just really vanilla and unthreatening for most of the game, and then the last 10 minutes he put his opposition under huge pressure and helped his side win a game. This one, like you say, it was consistent throughout. I think it was what I would know is it's one of the biggest games he's had to play in. There was plenty on the line in this game. I mean, a defeat and the kind of pretty much out of the running, you would have thought. And he delivered in a big way, and it totally backs up his place in the GBEPS, I think, when he's been able to deliver on a big stage.
Yeah.
Highlight of the week, then. I'm going to give my nod to Evalds, on the basis that I don't just want to be seen as a Wigan homer, but also, although Wigan scored some crackers and Bevan French is a highlight producing machine in his own right, that hopefully will light up Super League big side during his stay at Wigan. I think that, this Salford side and the way they score tries, the way they flood through and score from deep and that sort of stuff, I think it's a joy to see, and because it's going to get broken up, we might not see the same. So I'm going to give the nod to Evalds on that basis.
Fair enough. I'm going to say Jay Pitts' try. That squares up that showdown on the last day.
Yeah,
that's
it was a huge moment, wasn't it?
Yeah, there we go. So that is that.
Yeah, predictions, Super Brew and fantasy updates. So in the predictions, me and Alan both went 5 out of 6 last week. I'm on 66. I don't understand how this has worked out. I'm on 66% now for the season, and he's on 67%, whereas he was behind me last week. But anyway, he's leading the way. Sarah has 53%, and you, Tim, you have 52%. So it's kind of difficult for the two of you to catch up. So there's a Hull off at the bottom, and me and Alan fighting out for the top. Alan stays top of the table in the Super Brew. Dom Hodgson, though, wears the yellow cap this week, so well done to Dom. And then in the Fantasy League, Alan Bagley, of course, stays at the top. I might as well put that in the post room now. But Mark Vorden, St Helens fan Mark Vorden, top scores with 693 this week, which was frustrating for me because he's just ahead of me in the table. So that was a disappointment. Thanks to everyone who got their fan views in on this week's games. Make sure you look out for the Google form for fan views on next week's pivotal matches, so that we have lots to talk about, from particularly Friday night's action with the relegation being on the line. We're now going to run through the other results from around the world of Rugby League. Okay, so in the other results, it was round 27 in the championship, the final round of competition in that competition before the playoffs, and two sides who will be competing in the playoffs played out a close and not uncontroversial match as Featherstone lost 24 points to Toulouse's 26 points. Over the other side of the Atlantic, it was Toronto 46, Lee 12. We had a fan viewing on this one.
Yeah, from Attila Murphy, who says the referee had to talk to the captains after 57 seconds, which is amazing. Lussick was rested because we all know how that would have turned out, and Emmett did what Emmett does best, which is hit people. Yeah, I saw that in Toronto for myself. Macron and Brearley in the bin for handbags, and post-game BMC called Lee filthy, vicious bastards, paraphrasing, but not by much. We were better, bigger and more skillful and also more disciplined. Roll on the grand final.
Got a game to win before you get there, Attila. Don't get ahead of yourself. Barrow got a nice victory to sign off from the championship, 24 points to 16 over Batley. It was Dewsbury 8, Widnes 22, Halifax 8, York 14, so a tight, tense battle for York to prepare them for the playoffs. Rochdale 0, Bradford 82, a game that featured one of the most audacious tries you will see this season.
Yeah, it was sort of, you don't know if how much he meant it. He was just trying to get something on it, and then the second he realised it worked, so he sort of tried it again.
Yeah, for those
flicked it around
who haven't seen it, the best way to describe it is Ethan Ryan did a Cruyff turn, and it ended up setting up a try for one of his teammates. Fantastic soccer skills there in that one. And then finally, Swinton 48, Sheffield 16 with Matty Ashton? Yeah.
Yeah.
Scoring a million tries for Swinton to cement his place as championship top try scorer and sign off in style for the Lions. What does that mean for the standings? The final standings?
Yes, the championship is locked down with Toronto Wolfpack heading into the playoffs with home advantage after amassing 52 regular season points. Toulouse finished second on 40, just ahead of York, who made 39 on their return to the championship. Lee and Featherstone round out the top five on 36 and 34 points respectively. Bradford finished sixth on 33 points, with Sheffield completing the top half on 30 points. Halifax, Swinton, Batley, Widnes and Dewsbury will go round again in the championship next year, and we will be welcoming Barrow and Rochdale to League One. And as I said before, I worry for Rochdale in terms of how they're going to sustain themselves next year, but let's hope they do.
Yeah, let's hope they do. League One, then, for this year, it was round 22, the final round, and it started at the Old Butt, where Coventry were in Rugby again to host Whitehaven. It finished 72-0 to Whitehaven. Give us a little summary and a flavour of this match.
I had to do a bit of work this one. I barely to put the microphone down with the amount of tries, and I have to say, and this is a very specific sort of a rant, but you'd be used to these by now, having black numbers on a white shirt with stripes across it really doesn't make them very easy to read. So if I got any Whitehaven try scorers wrong, it's your own fault for making them hard to read, because that was just it was too much going on to be able to see what those were from distance. They're quite small as well.
Clearly deserved winners, though, Haven.
Clearly deserved winners. Coventry came out but just, again, for beaten up side, really lacking confidence as well, but mainly just the amount of injuries they've gone through this year. Absolutely unprecedented. Used over 50 players this season.
That's no recipe for consistency or success, is it, really? Exactly,
and I think probably at least 5, if not 6 different halfback pairings at different points as well, where you look at all the different combinations that would have gone through. So that's never going to be a recipe. The front row was pretty much a sort of, walk the plank. People didn't tend to spend more than 2 games in a row there just through getting beaten up. And yeah, this game proved, early on they did hang in quite well, did put in a bit of defence, but to be